Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cave Dive, the place where I check out a new anime or manga and give you my thoughts. And today's episode is all about Mashle, magic and muscles. So let's talk about Mash Burn Dead. At first glance, Mash is the definition of dumb muscle. He's incredibly strong, ridiculously strong even, to the point where it actually feels unfair. He can punch through walls, send people flying, and basically solve most problems with raw physical power. And on top of that, he's pretty dense, socially awkward, doesn't understand basic magic terms, and his default reaction to almost everything is punch it. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite being stupid, Mash has insane battle IQ. In the middle of fights, he's calm, analytical, and comes up with really clever and creative ways to overcome his opponent. He's not just swinging wildly, he reads the situation, exploits weaknesses, and turns his lack of magic into an advantage in the most ridiculous and entertaining ways. What really makes Mash special though, is his personality. He has this incredibly pure and genuine heart. He loves his friends and would do anything to protect them. And of course, he has an undying love for cream puffs. If you threaten his friends or his cream puffs, good luck. One of the coolest things about him is the natural presence that he has. Even though he's quiet and kind of weird, people just naturally gravitate towards him. Whether it's his classmates, his rivals, or even complete strangers, they just end up respecting him, following him, or wanting to be around him. He inspires loyalty even without trying. So yeah, Mash is the perfect mix of being stupidly strong, super dumb, surprisingly sharp in battle, pure-hearted, and weirdly charismatic. That combination makes him super fun to watch and one of the most likable protagonists in recent anime. One thing I really appreciate about Mashle is that even though Mash is stupidly strong, the story never falls into that, oh, he's too OP and nothing can touch him trap like One Punch Man would. So yeah, he's incredibly powerful, but he still has very clear limitations, especially against higher level mages. As the opponents get stronger and start using more insane magic, you can actually feel the stakes rising. There are moments where you genuinely think, okay, he might actually lose this one, and that balance is what keeps the fights exciting. Mash isn't just breezing through everything with zero effort. He has to get clever, push his body to the limit, and sometimes even take real damage. It makes his victories feel earned instead of inevitable, and I really like that the show gives you that tension. You know that he's strong, but you never feel 100% safe that he's going to stomp every fight. One of the things that I really enjoyed about season 1 of Mashle is the friend group that he has and the character dynamic between them. Each member has their own unique abilities and personality, and they actually complement each other really well. It doesn't feel forced, it feels like a group that genuinely works together. You can already see how they're starting to grow and bounce off of one another, and what gets me most excited is knowing that there's still so much room for all of them to improve and get stronger in the future. It's not a brand new idea, but it's a tried and true formula that just works. Watching a group of misfits grow together, learn from each other, and slowly become a real team, I simply can't get enough of that. I also really love the serious moments in the show, especially when Mash locks in when he sees an opponent that he views as a genuine threat. And it's not necessarily that he's scared to fight them, but he's also very well aware of the damage that he could cause to the people around him. The second that someone touches his friends or even looks at his cream puffs the wrong way, yeah, you're cooked! And once that rap music starts playing in the background, you already know that something's about to go down. Mash never disappoints either. The creativity that he shows in those fights is always so entertaining, even though we have to get exposition from somebody who witnessed how fast he was so we can get a play-by-play on what Mash just did. And what I love most is how quickly he can switch. 1 second he's completely checked out and acting like a potato, and the next second he turns into this super intimidating dude. And the moment he starts doing that little Goku dance, you know it's time to pack it up. That contrast in his personality is one of the most fun parts of the show for me. There's also something that I noticed pretty quickly when I was watching. Mashle has a very clear intention to rip off popular media, especially Harry Potter. You've got the obvious examples, the sorting ceremony, the magical newspaper that works like a smart screen, the Quidditch matches, and even that hilarious scene when they're trying to calm down a plant before cooking it. It's pretty much Harry Potter with muscles and cream puffs. The only thing that we're really missing is a clear Slytherin equivalent, but maybe we'll get it in the future, who knows. But I actually do really enjoy how shamelessly it borrows from other series while still making everything feel fresh and funny in its own way. Beyond the obvious Harry Potter vibes, Mashle is packed with references and parodies of other famous media, and it doesn't even try to hide it. You've got the classic chosen one trope, but instead of being the only one with magic, Mash is the only one without it, and there are clear One Punch Man influences on how Mash casually one-shots problems with overwhelming overwhelming strength while still staying comedically absent-minded. And since we're talking about tropes and pulling inspiration from other shows, I have to mention one thing that I really couldn't get past in season 1, and that's the constant talk no jutsu scenes. It feels like almost every big bad or rival that Mash fights ends up becoming his friend shortly after. The formula is pretty predictable at this point. We get a quick flashback showing that the villain had a sad backstory or a loving mom, and Mash listens to their sob story for like 30 seconds, and suddenly they're best buddies. Mash doesn't even need to say much. He just stands there, looking pure. The villain has their emotional moment, and boom, friendship achieved. It happens so often that it started to feel a bit repetitive for me. Now don't get me wrong, I get what the show is going for. Mash's pure heart and changing people, but after the third or fourth time, it starts to lose its impact. I wish they mixed it up a little bit more instead of relying on the same cry plus flashback equals instant ally pattern every time. One example of this is the smoker looking crooked cop. This guy will do literally anything to get his promotion. He finds out that Mash can't use magic because he doesn't have the little mark on his face, so he decides to hunt him down, break into his house, beat up his dad, and then threatens to expose them if they don't go along with his new little scheme. He's the whole reason that we're even in this mess in the first place, but after Mash beats him, the story just kind of shrugs and goes, yeah, okay, he's our friend now, and suddenly he's drawn in that cute comedic style like nothing ever happened, no real consequences, no lingering tension, just instant redemption, and there's nothing to see here. Ooh, before we move on, I have to say, I really love the Grandmaster of the school. Even before we properly meet him, we get this fun little entrance exam sequence. There's this one teacher who clearly has it out for Mash and keeps trying to fail him, but Mash, being the crafty guy that he is, just keeps coming up with ridiculous new ways to pass every test they throw at him. And the whole time, the Grandmaster is just watching him quietly from his tower, and you can tell he's genuinely impressed. Right when things are about to get ugly, the Grandmaster steps in, and this man commands presence. Almost no one else on the show can match that kind of aura. He immediately takes over the exam, teleports Mash straight into the council's chambers, and that's when we get introduced to one of my favorite things about Mashle, those really cool, creepy looking ultimate abilities. In this particular case, he puts Mash through a brutal test in the coldest way possible. He basically threatens to kill Mash's dad if he can't complete the challenge in the next 30 seconds. It was such an intense and memorable introduction to his character. Now, I don't think he would have actually done it, but he was clearly just trying to test Mash on how he would react to pressure. But dang, that was an amazing scene. You can tell right away that the Grandmaster is very amused by Mash. He has full confidence that this kid is going to achieve his dream and become the divine visionary because Mash genuinely embodies the core principles that the school was built on. Even though the show has these darker and more intense moments where Mash really has to think on his feet and get creative to get out of tough situations, it balances that out perfectly with a ton of lighthearted and genuinely hilarious scenes. I think what I love most about Mashle though is its animation style. The characters' faces in the show are so funny to me. They pull off these exaggerated, ridiculous expressions that always catch me off guard and make me audibly laugh. There's just something really satisfying about a show that can go from serious and high stakes to completely silly in the span of a few seconds, and still makes it feel natural. Mashle does that really well. I really appreciate it when an anime can actually make you laugh. It's not easy to pull off nowadays, but this show nails it fairly consistently. Even though I have a lot of good things to say about Mashle, gotta be honest, there were quite a few times in season 1 where I found myself bored. Don't hurt me. I think a big part of that comes down to the villains, especially in the first half. Almost every antagonist feels like a cartoonish, twirly mustached stereotype whose only purpose is to bully people just because they can. And some do it because they have stronger magic, others do it because they have political power in the school. Either way, they're pretty one-dimensional. But Mash makes light work of them every single time, and honestly, I couldn't tell you most of their names or anything memorable about them. They just didn't leave any impression. And that villain of the week structure in the early episodes really dragged out for me. Even though the comedy was still funny, I wasn't invested in any of those early adversaries. However, things do pick up significantly in the second half. We get introduced to this creepy cult from one of the rival houses. They're going around attacking other students to collect gold coins in order to become the divine visionary. I think. For the first time, I actually felt like Mash might not have an easy answer, and that threat felt real, and it made the stakes feel much higher in my opinion. What I really liked in the second half of season 1 is that we actually get to to see each of our main characters get some kind of upgrade or at least show clear growth during the final fights. Every member of the group gets the chance to run the gauntlet against all the cult members, and the animation during these sequences is surprisingly good. Now this is more of a personal gripe more than anything actually wrong with the show, but I have to mention it. I kind of don't like when there's no variety in the attacks that people have. Don't get me wrong, each student has their unique ability and the kind of magic they use, which is cool, but almost every single one of them only spams that one move the entire time. And if I have to hear Graviole or Explom one more time, I might actually lose it. The amount of times that those words get repeated genuinely starts to get irritating after a while. And I kept thinking to myself, instead of just spamming Graviole, why don't you just have a bunch of different gravity related spells with their own names and effects? It would make the fights feel a lot more dynamic in my opinion. It reminded me a lot of my issue with Kakyoin and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure constantly yelling Emerald Splash. I just wish there was more variety in how the main cast uses their magic. Now that being said, this could easily change in later seasons. They're all still pretty new to magic, so maybe they just haven't unlocked a bigger moveset yet. And I'm curious to see what season 2 brings in that department. And one thing that really surprised me is that I went into Mashle thinking that it was going to be mostly comedy, but towards the end of season 1, we actually get one of the coolest plot twists in the entire show. Now without spoiling too much, one of the friends who's been running the gauntlet with the group and helping break into the hideout, turns out he wasn't actually that character at all. Now, I'm still not 100% sure if he was replaced the whole time or just during that specific scene. Don't come at me if I missed something. But that reveal was actually surprising. And then we get introduced to Rain Amos. And this guy immediately wipes the floor with all of the cult members who had been giving our group serious trouble. The moment he shows up, he senses something is off with one of the people in our group and realizes that this person is way too powerful to be hanging around a school hideout. And this leads straight into the introduction of Innocent Zero, what seems to be a dangerous crime syndicate in the Mashle universe. The surprise villain at the end of season 1 was a genuine shock. He's actually a very strong and intimidating opponent, and once more, Mash doesn't have an easy answer for the guy's powers. There's also something weird that happened during the fight. Every now and then when Mash lands a hit, the villain has these strange reactions. It clearly hints at a much bigger plot that carries directly into the end credit scene teasing season 2. And that twist in final fight completely shifted the tone for me, and it made me way more excited for what's coming next. And of course, I always love it when a story has a main character who has a secret and nobody's allowed to know about it. In Mash's case, it's the fact that he can't use magic. It's the same kind of thrill that you get in superhero stories where the hero hides their identity to protect their family, or in Breaking Bad when Walt tries to keep his double life hidden from the DEA. That secret identity formula never gets old for me, and it always keeps things interesting. What I also really like is that the show isn't afraid to completely shake up the dynamic. Up until this point, Mash has been pretty successful at fooling most of the students into thinking that he has some kind of incomprehensible magic. But because of this one bum, that secret gets blown wide open almost instantly, and now everyone knows that he has no magic at all. I'm genuinely curious to see how that new dynamic plays out in season 2. It changes everything about how people will treat him and how the group moves forward. Oh, and one last thing that I almost forgot to mention. And this is just personally funny to me, but I love it. The show draws all of the side characters in the most generic way possible, while the main cast has these really distinct and expressive designs, and you can instantly tell who's important just by looking at them. It constantly reminded me of that one meme from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, oh, the stand user could be anyone. Except in Mashle, it's more like the important character could be anyone, but you can immediately tell who they are because everyone else looks like a background NPC. Overall, I really love the core concept of Mashle and its comedic style. At first, I didn't think that the show had much to offer. It felt like it was going to be silly fights and gags the whole way through, but by the end of season 1, I realized that I might actually be in for a pretty exciting journey. That said, I can't really deny that the first half of the season felt pretty unimportant to me, and there were stretches where I got genuinely bored because it lacked a strong overarching plot. But looking back, that was mostly on me for expecting big things too early. And to sum it all up, there's a lot of things that I like about it, and there are some things that didn't quite work for me, and that's perfectly fine. After finishing season 1 of Mashle, Magic and Muscles, I can confidently say that it is a fair 7 out of 10. But don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. You still here?